Hello, hi, I hope you're very well. My name's Adrian, and if you're watching this on Facebook, then you probably know that because it's been sent out to friends and family primarily. But I've had a lifelong interest in spiritual matters, and while people often think that this kind of area of life is quite vague and intangible in a sense, it's actually something that really affects all of us, and we're all on that life's journey. And what I've found is that spiritual or metaphysical matters are as important, if not more important, than just about everything else, at least at certain times in our lives. And it seems like we're all on this journey, but people get called to the metaphysical or spiritual path at different times in their lives and for different reasons probably. Very often it is that people experience at a certain point in life a lot of suffering and difficulty, and while at the time the difficulties in life seem insurmountable, it's very often the case that this opens a door and becomes a portal through spiritual practice to real self-transformation. And it's that self-transformation and becoming self-aware that perhaps is the defining point of a spiritual or metaphysical journey. So, as I said, while some people think that this is quite sometimes a vague and sort of indefinable area, it's actually very often an area where there really are concrete steps which vastly improve our well-being, and that's one key part and a definite byproduct of anybody who's interested in kind of spiritual or metaphysical matters. Very often it is, as I said, through suffering and difficulty that people start this path, and very often the steps that we can take are very, very rational indeed and very practical. The Buddhist tradition, for example, is very practical in its approach and offers simply life-changing techniques and understandings which totally help us with our well-being. But also there are other elements to it as well. There's on this spiritual journey there's aspects of finding that sacred within, the sacred within, and this is about the magic of our own being, and that very precious aspect of all of our own lives, and we all are sacred. But it's also about, fun and enjoyment. This project, although hopefully it's a bit more than just a project, is to bring a centre to Monmouth town centre called the One Self Centre. And the One Self Centre, which as a subheading has the One Self Centre, Metaphysical Education, Teachings and Practice. And this One Self Centre should be a place for spiritual growth, metaphysical growth within the self and with others, a place for community, a place for growth, a kind of interbeing. As I say, very often the spiritual path is started at times when we're really sort of wondering, possibly suffering quite a bit with certain things, and that is very, very often is that portal to the start of that spiritual journey. The One Self Centre should be a place for people to come and to be able to learn about a range of techniques, to be able to investigate this nature of self, of life. We all have those experiences of the frustrations of life and feel, can't go further down a certain road or path, and we're all brought to that path at some point or another, it seems. So it should be a centre, aims to be a centre where there will be teachings from Buddhist practice such as mindfulness, or the nature of what reality is, a place for lectures, a place for discussion, looking at techniques from the ancient Vedic tradition, from amazing ancient texts such as the Bhagavad Gita or the Upanishad, the Upanishadic tradition, the Vedas, the Kashmiri Trika, Shiva, Shakti, energy work, energy transformation, and a place where all these things can be investigated. We'll practice exercises such as the Metta Bhavana, which is an exercise which is a transformation through kindness at the very core of our being, and that kindness transforms just as much as any other approach. There's an old Buddhist story of somebody who reached enlightenment just through this practice of Metta Bhavana. But whenever we're feeling injury in life, it's often a good time to start this journey. That said, many of us have been on a spiritual path for many years, and hopefully it should be a place then for people to find other like-minded individuals and to have a space to practice, to engage with those aspects of life, which is what our journey is all about. So somebody once described spirituality as, or many indeed, as the process of becoming self-aware, and indeed many relate the whole human and planetary evolution as a process of becoming self-aware. So this process of self-awareness has many different approaches and facets, but simply to have a place like this where we can practice mindfulness, we can practice a huge range of different meditational approaches, a place for just being, a place for silence, a place for the sacred within. It is something which is hugely important for any area to have, and when we start engaging in these things, we find that together we can become a force for good in the world. We can discover just that, the underlying cosmic quality of love that is our very nature. Sat Chit Ananda, as the ancients would say, which is the trifold aspect of the ever constant, unchanging, emanating love and energetic quality of life. So I hope anyway some of this has resonated with you. We'd really love some donations, because it's going to cost a lot of money to get this place started, and I've put that I want to raise £15,000 for 1 year's rent, and to get some material printed, for some costs, for some furniture that we'll need to buy, to promote ourselves a little bit, for a coffee machine, for stuff that we'll need just to get the centre up and running, for some plants to make it a peaceful space. And if you feel that you engage with the beauty of life and what our life's journey really is, and you think that you would benefit from a space like this, maybe you've never really looked into this kind of thing before. Maybe you really do appreciate this aspect of life, the silence where the magic happens, if you like. Then we'd be grateful for donations, and please be as generous as you can. We'd be really trying to get this amount reached, so that we can get £15,000, because to have a centre like this changes the space around it. If you have enough centres like this, truly the world around you does change. There have been many studies done in the 70s, for example, where there were areas where people were meditating in groups in cities, Washington DC for example, and the crime rate went down every single time they had a sustained set of meditations over a period of a month or two. And that is the power of ourselves within. We have the power to change the planet that we're on, and meditation and metaphysical or spiritual practice is one key way to do that. So let's engage. We can change the world. We can change the world totally for the better. And so please come forward and get involved with this, and let's meet up and chat about it. Let's have some meetings and discussions. Anybody who's got an interest in such matters, please get in touch and speak about it. And let's really get this started and start changing our own lives and being an influence for good in the world. Thanks very much.